Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed. Both leaders share deep concerns at terrorism and deteriorating security situation in West Asia. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken presses for protection of civilians during his second visit to Israel. Bhutan King on a week-long visit to India to strengthen bilateral ties to meet President Murmu, Prime Minister Modi and External Affairs Minister Jaishankar. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates the World Food India 2023 in New Delhi, says millets, like yoga, are set to go global. And Afghanistan beats the Netherlands by 7 wickets to register its 4th win in the Cricket World Cup, stays in the race for a semi-final berth. First up, the latest on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. U.S. Foreign Minister Antony Blinken reiterated U.S.'s solidarity with Israel, and he said that civilians must be protected in Gaza. Now, India's Foreign Minister Subramanyam Jaishankar also called the 7th October Hamas attacks in Israel a big act of terrorism and said that terrorism in any form is unacceptable. Meanwhile, the Israeli military claimed that it had completed the encirclement of the city of Gaza. Raghav Kumar Jha reports.
As the conflict between Israel and Gaza enters 28th day, Israeli army said that a ceasefire is not on the table and forces have completed the encirclement of the city of Gaza.
The forces continue to dismantle the front defense lines of Hamas in the northern Gaza and to take control of central areas. We continue to intensify our operations and to advance according to plan and to the targets that we have set.
Israeli military claimed that another Hamas commander, Mustafa Dalul, who was responsible for combat against IDF forces, killed during the operation. Israeli army also accused Hamas of stealing fuel from Gaza's Shifa hospital for terror use. Israeli army is also on high alert on its northern border to tackle any threat coming from Lebanon. Israel reiterated on Friday that this is a war of self-defense after a brutal attack by Hamas.
This is a war of self-defense after being attacked brutally. And our goal in this war is to eliminate Hamas control and Hamas terrorism from the Gaza Strip. It's a matter of survival. Because if we won't do that, Hamas will continue with other massacres, one after the other.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is on a visit to Italy, also termed Hamas attack on Israel a big act of terrorism and said it is unacceptable. At the same time, he added that there needs to be a solution for the issue of Palestine as well.
What happened on October 7th, this big act of terrorism, the subsequent happenings after that, this has taken the entire region into a very different direction. If there is an issue of terrorism, and we all find terrorism unacceptable, we have to stand up on terrorism. But there is also an issue of Palestine. There has to be a solution to what is, the problems which face the Palestinian people. And our view is that it has to be a two-state solution.
Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who is in Israel to push for humanitarian pauses in the Gaza conflict, met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his war cabinet, and the President of Israel in Tel Aviv. Blinken reiterated that Israel has a right to do everything possible to ensure that this October 7 attack can never happen again, but also stressed that Israel must protect civilians in its bombardment of the Hamas-controlled Strip.
It's always good to be back in Israel. These are difficult days, but we're here as we've been and as we will remain in solidarity with Israel. We stand strongly for the proposition that Israel has not only the right but the obligation to defend itself and to do everything possible to make sure that this October 7th can never happen again.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog said that Israel's mass communication rollout meant it was acting according to the rules of international law.
6 billion text messages and 4 million phone calls and 1.2 million pamphlets and phone calls in addition to all of that speaks for itself as we protect the civilians moving out to safe zone, giving them the right and necessary humanitarian aid, and enabling ourselves to defend ourselves.
On the other hand, thousands of cross-border Gazan workers and laborers in Israel and the occupied West Bank were sent back to Gaza on Friday. Raghav Kumar Jha reporting for DD India.
Seriously wounded Palestinians are desperate to escape Israel's bombardment of Gaza. More in the next report.
Their hopes are alive, but they don't really know when will they actually cross the border. Hundreds of foreign passport holders and dozens of other seriously wounded Palestinians are desperate to escape Israel's bombardment of Gaza. Crowds and cars are waiting near Gaza's Rafah crossing, which is expected to open for the third day. Restless people waiting for the Hamas authorities to call their names over the scratchy loudspeaker. Each name represented another individual with a chance to escape the punishing war. The crossing opened earlier for limited evacuations. It aims to facilitate the departure of more foreigners seeking to leave Gaza. According to border officials, dozens of critically injured Palestinians and more than 700 foreign citizens left for Egypt via Rafah.
So we finally got the chance to almost leave Gaza. This is my 5th attempt to leave. We evacuated our house about 19 days ago.
While more aid trucks are waiting to cross through Rafah border, how soon they will be able to reach the people remains to be seen as Israel-Hamas war rages on.
Now, DD India's Amritpal Singh filed this report from the Lebanon-Israel border as the Hezbollah steps up missile and rocket attacks.
Even as the center of the military campaign of Israel is the Gaza Strip, and Israel continues to pound Gaza Strip through airstrikes and its ground forces, which have entered the Gaza Strip in limited numbers. But the northern front of Israel is also heating up. I'm right now on the Lebanon-Israel border, and those mountains that you see behind me are Lebanon. Hezbollah is constantly firing rockets into northern Israel. Even as we speak, the rockets are being fired. That city that you see there is Kiryat Shimona, which saw a barrage of rockets fired by Hamas fighters who are also in southern Lebanon. So both Hezbollah and the Hamas, or there are groups of Hamas who are active in the Palestinian refugee camps there. All this while hectic diplomacy is on. Antony Blinken Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, was in Israel on Friday. He met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet. Later, he traveled to Jordan to see that the spillover does not happen, the war does not escalate regionally. So now the focus clearly from the Israeli side is to intensify its military activity. Hamas, Hezbollah are fighting back, but the headache for the international community is one, how humanitarian aid is increased, whether through a humanitarian pause, and also the fate of the hostages and the other foreigners who are stuck inside the Gaza Strip. And the third, of course, is how to prevent a regional escalation of the war. Amritpal Singh for DD India in Meramgon.
All right, just to recap for the benefit of viewers tuning in just now, we are tracking Blinken's second visit to Israel in under a month. As you can see on the pictures on your screens, he has already met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel and also called on the Israeli President Isaac Herzog in Tel Aviv. And he also addressed a press conference toward the end of his talks in Tel Aviv, in which he called upon Israel to avoid civilian casualties in Gaza. At the same time, he defended Israel's right to retaliate against the 7th October attacks by the Hamas inside Israel, and in that attack, the Hamas took 242 hostages. All right, joining me is my colleague Amritpal Singh. Amrit, if you can hear me, how did Blinken's talks with the Israeli leadership go?
Anthony Blinken met with Prime Minister Netanyahu, the President of Israel, Isaac Herzog, and the whole war cabinet. So there were three separate meetings that happened. Basically, he told Israelis that, we stand by you, we defend your right to protect yourself, but you need to find out ways to protect the civilians, the civilian casualties that are going up in the Gaza Strip. Also, he, spoke about, the two sides spoke about how the humanitarian assistance to the civilians in Gaza could increase. Third, what was discussed was the state of the hostages and how the hostages could be declared. So these 3 points were essentially what was discussed. Now, this comes in context of what Joe Biden had yesterday, the American president had yesterday said about humanitarian pause. So basically, the American Secretary of State clarifying to the Israelis that there is no shift of the U.S. position. It stands by Israel's support of Israel and understands why they need to conduct military operations, but how the two sides can work and exchange information. One, to take the negotiations which are on to get the hostages released, and second, to press upon Israel to take all measures to protect civilian lives inside the Gaza Strip during its military campaign.
Amrit, you mentioned about Blinken's efforts, diplomacy in Tel Aviv in his talks with Netanyahu. But what did Netanyahu have to say in his statement after the talks?
Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu basically stressed upon the fact that, that their military campaign will not stop unless they achieve their objective of completely decimating the Hamas. And he said that, if their forces are acting on specific intelligence to reduce the civilian casualties as much as possible, because that is not their objective. Their objective is only Hamas, in a way, trying to justify that whatever civilian deaths and injuries are happening are due to our collateral damage, but making it very clear that they will not stop unless their military objective, stated military objective of decimating the Hamas, both politically and militarily, is achieved.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Amrit, thank you once again. There was Amritpal Singh on the phone line from the Israel-Lebanon border. And still to come on DD India News Hour. An expert puts the Israel-Gaza developments in their proper context. The King of Bhutan begins a week-long visit to India. And Russian drones hit civilian targets in Ukraine's Kharkiv.
अब क्या देख रहे हो पापा?
तुम कहते हो ना कि स्टॉक मार्केट में बहुत सोच समझकर इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए, बस थोड़ा सा ज्ञान ले रहा हूँ।
किससे?
हर एक स्टॉक्स एक्सपर्ट है, मस्त एजुकेशनल वीडियोस बनाता है और अच्छी इन्वेस्टमेंट की टिप्स भी देता है।
पापा इन वीडियोस पे ना जाएं, अपना रिसर्च खुद करें या सेबी रजिस्टर्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर से संपर्क करें। एजुकेशन के नाम पर कुछ इन्फ्लुएंसर्स अक्सर इन्वेस्टर को मिसगाइड करते हैं, नुकसान आपका होगा।
सोच कर, समझ कर, इन्वेस्ट कर।
तुम्हें पता है इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए एक इन्वेस्टर प्रोटेक्शन फंड होता है IPF, लेकिन अगर तुम्हारा ट्रेड एक्सचेंज पर एग्जीक्यूट नहीं हुआ या फिर कोई गारंटीड रिटर्न्स वाली स्कीम है तो ये IPF आपकी मदद नहीं कर सकता है।
और अगर आपका ब्रोकर ही डिफॉल्टर बन जाए तो
फिर IPF आपको कॉम्पेंसेशन दिला सकता है।
कहाँ से सीखा?
NSE की साइट पर।
सोच कर, समझ कर, इन्वेस्ट कर।
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi cautioned why the perils of appeasement politics can go to the extent of saving and standing with terror.
Sonia Gandhi's speech was kind of an apology speech for Hamas.
Karnataka has shown overwhelmingly that a certain community voted for the Congress en bloc. Congress party is consciously taking this position.
Our national security lie in the suppression and the crushing of the extremist and the terrorist elements.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. All right, going back to the top story, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Mr. Sanjay Bachara joins us from New Delhi. Mr. Bachara is a former Indian ambassador to Switzerland, Turkey and Egypt. Ambassador Bachara, welcome. Now, Blinken has made a second trip to Israel in less than a month. He has just finished addressing a press conference in Tel Aviv. Blinken says he is asking Israel to minimize civilian casualties in Gaza and the West Bank. At the same time, he has defended Israel's military retaliation to the 7th October attacks by the Hamas. But Netanyahu says Israel will not agree to a temporary truce until the hostages are released. So no common ground, stalemate continues?
It's a very horrific scene that we see out from Gaza. Over 28 days of intensive aerial attacks have now caused more than 9,000 casualties of the Palestinian side. Almost all of them are civilians, women and children being included amongst them. The Israeli attack on Gaza is understandable. However, its ability to not target the civilians, civilian facilities, hospitals, UN centers, schools, relief camps is really inexplicable. And it goes beyond what a war should be. And I think across the world, we are seeing calls for a de-escalation, for reducing the tensions, allowing aid to come in. And I think there is time now that this has to be put into effect. I hope Blinken is persuasive enough to bring a pause, if not a de-escalation of a greater extent, because this is becoming a humanitarian crisis.
Indeed. Ambassador Bhattacharya, in the meantime, Prime Minister Modi of India has spoken to the UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed as well, after he had similar talks with the King of Jordan and the President of Palestine Authority, Mahmoud Abbas as well. But now coming back to Blinken, now Blinken will hold talks in Jordan too. Now, do you think the Arab world is willing to play ball?
Well, it is really for Israel to play ball at this stage. While we all understand the horrific incidents that they've been through, it is now time for them to become a little more reasonable. You see, the objectives of war, which was laid out, which is the obliteration of the Hamas, and to teach the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip a lesson that they would learn for many generations, is an unrealistic one. It cannot be achieved. The leadership of Hamas is not in Gaza. They're sitting in Qatar. So what are we actually going forward with? The Qataris on many occasions have been very useful negotiators in trying to bring about a resolution of many of these issues. There has been some progress on the progress on the incursion and the ingress of humanitarian relief, and about 200 odd trucks have come into the Gaza Strip from the Rafah border. There have also been some negotiations which have led to the release of some of those people of foreign nationality. So there is a window of opportunity for diplomacy and negotiations, and it is absolutely imperative that in order to avoid a humanitarian crisis, which will actually, unfortunately, bedevil Israel more than anyone else in the years to come, that we should try the track of diplomacy and negotiations.
Absolutely. There's another dimension to what is unfolding in West Asia as we speak, Ambassador, with tensions rising along Israel's northern borders with both Lebanon and Syria. How real, I mean, we've been asking this question forever now, how real are the fears of a wider regional war?
I think in the initial days, I was of the opinion, and according to the information that was available, that the expansion of the war to other theaters was highly unlikely. However, if Israel continues to target civilians and cause so much of destruction in the Gaza Strip, and also don't forget this is happening in the West Bank as well, it is obvious that tensions will begin to rise. While regimes, governments of Arabs across the region are understanding of the situation, and many of them have urged that there should be action, but it should be proportionate. I think if this continues and it tends to escalate further, it'll become more difficult, because there are certain groups in the region who are hostile to Israel. And amongst these would include the people in the north. There are also some from down south, the Houthis in Yemen, who have taken some minimal action. And today, I understand Hassan Nasrallah also spoke in Lebanon.
Indeed.
And I think he took a fairly hard stance and saying that we cannot rule out the option of opening new fronts. I think there is grave desire on the part of Iran, the Hezbollah, the Iraqi, Syrian, and the Yemenis not to expand the war. But I think it is for Israel now to make sure that it does not. But if it continues with this kind of attacks on civilians, it is going to be a very, very difficult situation.
Indeed. And finally, Ambassador Bhattacharya, coming back to the situation inside Gaza as we speak, as you mentioned, more than 9,000 Palestinians have already lost their lives in Israel's response to the 7th October attacks by the Hamas. Do you think the situation will worsen in the days to come?
I'm afraid, given the trend of developments on the Israeli side, where there seems to be a very hardline approach which is not looking at a resolution, but at a certain retribution, this is likely to continue for a much longer period of time. And I cannot understand, because Israel has been in Gaza before. It has not been an easy place to be in, and it had withdrawn from that area in 2005. It is time that we allow the Palestinians to form their own sort of governance. And any attack like this on the Palestinians, which is actually targeting Palestinians and not just the Hamas, which has led to terrible terrorist activities. But this is affecting Palestinians. And the Palestinian sentiment, which has a reflection in Arab Street, is going to have huge repercussions for Israel.
Ambassador Bhattacharya, pleasure as always to talk to you. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Right, moving on in other news, the King of Bhutan, Jigme, Khesar, Namgyel, Wangchuk, is in Guwahati, the gateway to northeast India, on Friday for a week-long visit to India. It's the first visit for any monarch of the neighboring country to the northeastern state of Assam. The king was received by Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma at the Guwahati airport. The Bhutan King's next stop would be New Delhi on Sunday, where he will meet President Draupadi Murmu and also hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar. India and Bhutan look forward to strengthening their bilateral relations. The Bhutanese king will also travel to the western Indian state of Maharashtra during his stay in the country. Let me now bring you up to speed on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukraine claims that Russian drones hit civilian targets in Kharkiv, but for its part, the US imposes new sweeping sanctions on Russia. More in the next report.
As Russia-Ukraine conflict escalates, blame game continues. On the one hand, Russian President Vladimir Putin says some Western weapons supplied to Ukraine are finding their way to the Middle East, to the illegal arms market, and being sold to the Taliban.
They say that weapons from Ukraine appear in the Middle East now. Of course it does, because they sell it. They sell it to Taliban, and from there they go on to wherever. Everything is bought and sold.
On the other hand, Ukraine claims a massive drone attack by the Russian side targeted critical infrastructure in the west and south. Ukrainian Air Force says it shot down 24 Shahid drones out of 40 launched by Russia, the biggest attack in the past few weeks. Meanwhile, the United States has imposed new sweeping sanctions against Russia.
Grateful to the United States for a new and very powerful sanctions decision. More than 220 Russian and not only Russian entities that working for aggression are now under US sanctions. This is what is needed.
In reply, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Western sanctions on Russia over Ukraine hurt those who imposed them and that it expected more to be introduced in future. Ukraine's President Zelensky is considering the pros and cons of holding presidential elections in Ukraine next spring. The country is bracing for a second winter of Russian airstrikes on the energy system, which they say is more vulnerable than it was last year, as it has less excess capacity and little in the form of spare equipment. Munmun Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
And now take a look at some more stories making news around the world. 5 people were killed and several missing as heavy rains and overflowing rivers lashed central Italy because of Storm Chiron. The storm has already caused heavy flooding and damage in Northern Ireland, parts of Britain, Belgium and France. Spanish Coast Guard rescued 114 migrants off the Canary Islands on Thursday night. This brings the total number of migrants who have reached Canary Islands to 30,705, nearing a full-year record of 2006. Britain's King Charles and Queen Camilla bid farewell to Kenya after a 4-day visit to the country. Kenya's President William Ruto and the First Lady Rachel Ruto accompany the royal couple to the airport. The visit focused on the UK and Kenya's close cooperation on economic development, climate change and security issues. And still to come on DD India News Hour. The second edition of World Food India 2023 begins in New Delhi. India's foreign minister holds talks with his Italian counterpart in Rome. And India appoints officers for tackling the problem of pirated content.
अब क्या देख रहे हो पापा?
तुम कहते हो ना कि स्टॉक मार्केट में बहुत सोच समझकर इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए, बस थोड़ा सा ज्ञान ले रहा हूँ।
किससे?
हर एक स्टॉक्स एक्सपर्ट है, मस्त एजुकेशनल वीडियोस बनाता है और अच्छी इन्वेस्टमेंट की टिप्स भी देता है।
पापा इन वीडियोस पे ना जाएं, अपना रिसर्च खुद करें या सेबी रजिस्टर्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर से संपर्क करें। एजुकेशन के नाम पर कुछ इन्फ्लुएंसर्स अक्सर इन्वेस्टर को मिसगाइड करते हैं, नुकसान आपका होगा।
सोच कर समझ कर इन्वेस्ट कर।
तुम्हें पता है इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए कि इन्वेस्टर प्रोटेक्शन फंड होता है IPF, लेकिन अगर तुम्हारा ट्रेड एक्सचेंज पर एग्जीक्यूट नहीं हुआ या फिर कोई गारंटीड रिटर्न्स वाली स्कीम है तो ये IPF आपकी मदद नहीं कर सकता है।
और अगर आपका ब्रोकर ही डिफॉल्टर बन जाए तो
फिर IPF आपको कॉम्पेंसेशन दिला सकता है।
कहाँ से सीखा?
NSE की साइट पर।
सोच कर समझ कर इन्वेस्ट कर।
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi cautioned why the perils of appeasement politics can go to the extent of saving and standing with terror.
Sonia Gandhi's speech was kind of an apology speech for Hamas.
Karnataka has shown overwhelmingly that a certain community voted for the Congress and bloc. Congress party is consciously taking this position.
Our national security lie in the suppression and the crushing of the extremist and the terrorist elements.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed, calls for durable regional peace. Bhutan King begins a week-long visit to India to review the entire gamut of bilateral ties. And India and Italy sign a mobility and migration pact after foreign minister-level talks in Rome. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the second edition of World Food India 2023 in New Delhi on Friday. The mega food event aims to showcase India as the food basket of the world and also celebrate 2023 as the International Year of Millets.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the second edition of mega food event World Food India 2023 in New Delhi on Friday. Prime Minister disbursed seed capital assistance for over 1 lakh self-help groups members. This support will help the group gain better price in the market through improved packaging and quality manufacturing. The aid provided by government will benefit the women entrepreneurs the most.
भारत की महिलाओं में फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री को लीड करने की स्वाभाविक क्षमता है। इसके लिए हर स्तर पर महिलाओं को कुटीर उद्योगों और सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स को प्रमोट किया जा रहा है। आज इस कार्यक्रम में भी 1 लाख से ज्यादा महिलाओं को, जो विमेन सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप चलाती हैं, 1 लाख से ज्यादा महिलाओं को करोड़ों रुपयों की सीड कैपिटल दी गई और मैंने टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए अभी यहां से उसको ऑलरेडी उनके खाते में जमा कर दिया।
Addressing the event, PM Modi said that the fusion of technology and taste will pave the way for the economy of the future. In the last 9 years, Prime Minister informed that the sector has attracted foreign direct investment of more than rupees 50,000 crores as a result of the government's pro-industry and pro-farmer policies.
पिछले 9 वर्षों में हमारे कृषि निर्यात में प्रोसेस्ड फूड का हिस्सा 13 से बढ़कर 23% हो गया है। 13 to 23। 9 सालों में प्रोसेस्ड फूड के एक्सपोर्ट में करीब 150% की वृद्धि हुई है। आज हम $50,000 मिलियन से ज्यादा का एग्रो एक्सपोर्ट करके ग्लोबली 7वें नंबर पर आ गए हैं।
India's food variety and food diversity has been a major global attraction. The food processing industry is a key driver of India's agricultural landscape, adding value, reducing food waste, and creating a vibrant market for farm produce. The event also aims to showcase India as food basket of the world and celebrate 2023 as the International Year of Millets. It will also feature a reverse buyer-seller meet with over 1,200 overseas buyers from more than 80 countries.
Now, the World Food India 2023 showcases culinary specialities from across India. Celebrity chef Ranveer Brar and his team, who curated the entire project, spoke to DD India's Dibyendu Mondal. Take a listen.
We are joined by Chef Ranveer Brar, who's curated this entire food street. Sir, welcome to Doordarshan. What are the offerings that you have curated for the guests who have come not only from India but across the world?
Yeah, actually 15 countries, So what we've done is we've sort of curated the food street around, I would like to think, 4 pillars. The theme of the food street is millets and sustainability. So everywhere we're celebrating sustainability and millets. There is a cooking demo section where celebrity chefs are doing different demos. There's a royal food section where royalty, every day we have 2 different royalties cooking food from the gharanas. Then there are different states showcasing their work with millets. Then we have an entire street food section, which is 75 dishes of India.
Since India has taken the lead to show that millet is one of the most superfoods, if you could talk us through what benefits do millets have?
No, I think under the more noble leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi, we have driven the cause of millets to the world. And I am absolutely in love with the name that he has coined for millets, Shri Anna. The fact that millets are the grains of the future, they use less water, they are topically more relevant in times to come, and they are superfoods. They are nutritionally dense, and hence I think it's very, very important not just to bring millets in conversation, but to keep them in the conversation.
India's Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar held talks with his Italian counterpart Antonio Tajani in Rome. The 2 leaders spoke about deepening the strategic partnership between India and Italy, and also agreed that the potential in agro-tech, innovation, space, defense and the digital domain should be explored. Both countries signed a mobility and migration partnership agreement to enable seamless movement of workers, students and professionals. Both sides also inked a cultural exchange program. And delivering a joint press statement after talks with his Italian counterpart, Minister Jaishankar said Italy is one of the few countries that supported all of India's major global initiatives, such as the International Solar Alliance, the India-West Asia Economic Corridor, and the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure.
Italy is one country which has supported all the major international initiatives of India in recent years. This includes the International Solar Alliance, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, and most recently, the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor and the Global Biofuels Alliance. So this shows today how convergent, how similar our view is towards global challenges.
Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who is visiting Sri Lanka, inaugurated the State Bank of India branch in Jaffna. The Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, and SBI Chairperson Dinesh Khara were also present. The Indian minister noted that the branch at Jaffna would cater to emerging business potential in the northern provinces of Sri Lanka. The minister appreciated that the SBI became the first foreign bank in Sri Lanka to successfully launch path-breaking direct LKR-INR trade. On Thursday, Minister Sitharaman had inaugurated another SBI branch in Trincomalee. After the inauguration of the new SBI branch, the Indian Finance Minister also distributed passbooks to new customers in Jaffna. India's Information Minister Anurag Singh Thakur on Friday appointed nodal officers for taking down pirated content. The officers have been appointed in the Information Ministry, the Central Board of Film Certification headquarters in Mumbai, and its regional offices in major film production centers.
With the film industry facing losses of up to Rs 20,000 crore every year due to piracy, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has taken strong steps to check the film piracy in the country. After the Parliament passed the Cinematograph Amendment Act 1952 during this year's monsoon session, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has established an institutional mechanism of nodal officers to receive complaints against piracy and direct the intermediaries to take down pirated content on digital platforms.
Government, under the able leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has taken some steps by passing the Cinematograph Amendment Bill 2023 in the Parliament. Today we have appointed the nodal officers in the ministry as well as in the CBFC Mumbai office and the regional offices where the films are hub and where the content is created. The government has done away also with the requirement to renew their film licenses every 10 years and made it valid for lifetime.
The above action would allow instant action by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting in case of piracy and will provide relief to the film industry.
It is a very important amendment which authorizes Ministry of Information and Broadcasting to take action under the IT Act to remove pirated content. The normal timeline for taking down the content is 48 hours, but our experience is once the system gets set, then these content gets taken down within 8 to 10 hours, 12 hours. And I believe that this will be a big relief to the film industry, which is reeling under the piracy.
The Act has been amended after 40 years to incorporate provisions against film piracy, including digital piracy, after the last significant amendments were made in 1984. The amendment includes strict punishment of minimum 3 months imprisonment and fine of Rs 3 lakh, which can be extended up to 3 years imprisonment and fine up to 5% of the audited gross production cost. An original copyright holder or any person authorized by them for this purpose can apply to the nodal officer to take down pirated content. If a complaint is raised by a person who does not hold the copyright or is not authorized by the copyright holder, the nodal officer can hold hearings on a case-to-case basis to decide the genuineness of the complaint before issuing the directions. As of now, there is no institutional mechanism to directly take action on pirated filmic content except legal action under Copyright Act and IPC. The film fraternity is expressing gratitude to the government with regard to the new amendments. Shailendra Mishra's report for DD India.
United States Ambassador to India Eric Garcetti inaugurated a photo exhibition at the American Center in New Delhi on the CSR activities by 104 American companies in India. Ambassador Garcetti, in his address, highlighted that India's CSR policies are ahead of everywhere in the world.
I want to thank American companies for following the lead of Indian legislation. I know that's not something we always talk about, because oftentimes you come to me and say, can you help me out with this proposed legislation, or we're not sure how this will affect us. But I think if we want to lead with authority, we have to lead with humility sometimes. And India's CSR policies really are out ahead of everywhere in the world. And I think it's a model for our country, it's a model for the world, and it's a model which really forces you by law to do things. But as you see in these pictures, it's not just the money that you give, it's the way you're transformed by the service that you give.
The American Chamber of Commerce in India highlighted the CSR activities of American companies in the sector of girl-child education, health and nutrition. They also highlighted the increase of trade between India and the US, which is growing exponentially.
This is the best time between the India and American relationship, and we are seeing, and especially post visit of President to here and our Honorable Prime Minister going to US, we have seen this tie has really increased. From $200 billion trade, what currently the two countries are doing, we are looking to increase it to $500 billion in time to come. That clearly demonstrates that both the countries are really looking to increase the tie. And we have seen a huge amount of investment coming from all the American companies in the countries across all facets of life.
I'll just quote an example. One of our companies have provided over 7.3 million nutritional midday meals to children. In terms of healthcare, hygiene, skill development, women empowerment, every possible sector that they feel is going to be useful. And creating, of course, livelihoods and gainful employment, the US industry is there to partner with India.
All right, now take a look at some other stories making news in India. The Supreme Court of India asked Aam Aadmi Party lawmaker Raghav Chadha to meet the Upper House chairperson Jagdeep Dhankar and tender an unconditional apology for his alleged conduct in the House. Chadha was indefinitely suspended from Parliament on 11th August over the alleged breach of privilege. The chairperson of the Ethics Committee of India's lower house of legislature, Vinod Sonkar, claimed that TMC lawmaker Mahua Moitra used objectionable language or words and raised unethical allegations against him during a hearing on the cash for query allegations. There are allegations that the TMC lawmaker received money for asking a question in Parliament. Political parties are holding public rallies in poll-bound states as campaign gained momentum in India's northwestern state of Rajasthan. BJP leader and Minister Rajnath Singh attacked the ruling government and said there is internal rift in that party. Chief Minister of Rajasthan Ashok Gehlot also retaliated. And still to come on DD India News Hour. North Korea says it is shutting down some of its embassies. Some parts of the world are battling extreme weather events. And Afghanistan beats the Netherlands in a Cricket World Cup match.
अब क्या देख रहे हो पापा?
तुम कहते हो ना कि स्टॉक मार्केट में बहुत सोच समझकर इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए, बस थोड़ा सा ज्ञान ले रहा हूं।
किससे?
हर एक स्टॉक्स एक्सपर्ट है, मस्त एजुकेशनल वीडियोस बनाता है और अच्छी इन्वेस्टमेंट की टिप्स भी देता है।
पापा इन वीडियोस पे ना जाएं, अपना रिसर्च खुद करें या सेबी रजिस्टर्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर से संपर्क करें। एजुकेशन के नाम पर कुछ इन्फ्लुएंसर्स अक्सर इन्वेस्टर को मिसगाइड करते हैं, नुकसान आपका होगा।
सोच कर समझ कर इन्वेस्ट कर।
तुम्हें पता है इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए एक इन्वेस्टर प्रोटेक्शन फंड होता है IPF, लेकिन अगर तुम्हारा ट्रेड एक्सचेंज पर एग्जीक्यूट नहीं हुआ या फिर कोई गारंटीड रिटर्न्स वाली स्कीम है तो ये IPF आपकी मदद नहीं कर सकता है।
और अगर आपका ब्रोकर ही डिफॉल्टर बन जाए तो
फिर IPF आपको कॉम्पेंसेशन दिला सकता है।
कहाँ से सीखा?
NSE की साइट पर।
सोच कर समझ कर इन्वेस्ट कर।
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. North Korea says it is shutting several embassies abroad in an effort to rearrange its diplomatic capacity efficiently. The country faces extensive sanctions over its nuclear and missile programs. Pyongyang has decided to shut down a dozen diplomatic missions, including the ones in Spain, Hong Kong, and various countries in Africa. Now, this would mean the closure of nearly 25% of the country's missions worldwide. The Indian Council for Cultural Relations invited delegates from 11 countries for the Buddha Bhumi Vandana Yatra under its new initiative of cultural educational program. 23 young scholars and leaders from Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Malaysia, Laos, Cambodia, Japan, South Korea, Nepal, Thailand and Vietnam visited India to experience rich ethnicity of the country.
Indian Council for Cultural Relations has been working hard to spread the message of the idea of India in multiple ways, especially amongst the next generation of the global population. And 23 delegates have come over here, and they were taken to various places associated with Buddha's life, starting of course from Bodh Gaya. They visited Nalanda, they also visited Sarnath, Varanasi. In Delhi also they spent some time. When these Buddhist leaders come over here, they understand how India is striving hard to spread the message of Buddha.
These young scholars explored Bodh Gaya's monasteries and archaeological museum as well. They also visited the Nalanda University at Sarnath, Kashi Vishwanath Dham in Varanasi, and the Ajanta Caves, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, this educational and cultural visit aims to promote cross-cultural understanding and facilitate the exploration of India's rich Buddhist heritage.
Yeah, it's my first time in India, so definitely it was amazing. It was stunning, especially when I got my own religion. I'm a Buddhist myself, and I got to visit the very birthplace of Buddha Gautama, Buddha itself. And when we visited the places, it's not just about the Dharma itself, but also the Buddhist heritage that have been preserved by the past people. And when we were there, it's not just about how we feel within when we learn the Dharma itself, but how we should protect this teaching of Buddha.
Pali Vinaya and Pali Nikaya in my hometown school. It was really touching to be in accordance with Buddha's trace, and all the venerables were chanting mantras and like sutras that gave me feeling of really dizziness and also happiness as well.
The Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Guatemala, Carla Samayoa Ricari, delivered the 46th Sapru House Lecture on Empowerment of Women in Guatemala, an approach to equality and development at the Indian Council of World Affairs in New Delhi. Minister Ricari lauded the Women Reservation Bill passed by the Indian Parliament, stating it as an example of acknowledging the role of women in politics.
Before coming to India, I was informed of this important bill that was approved by the Parliament of India, as you just stated, the Women's Reservation Bill, which is a great example of India acknowledging the importance of the role of women in an inclusive society, and particularly in politics. This is a significant achievement for women in the largest democracy in the world. So India, in my case, congratulations. I think something's bigger. Sometimes, I mean, it's as I said, we shouldn't have quotas of women. I mean, there should be women there by principle, but sometimes it's the only way. Secretary General of the UN has done the same thing.
In some other news, extreme weather events are being witnessed across the globe. Here is a detailed report.
Countries across the world are witnessing extreme weather events. At many places, air quality has become a matter of concern. Breathlessness, irritation in eyes, itchy throats and coughs. This is how people of India's national capital, Delhi, are living in the month of November, as a thick layer of toxic haze has descended on the city. The air quality index entered the severe category in several parts, and the government has announced an air emergency, shutting down schools and construction sites.
Quite serious, because the air quality index is crossing 400. It means that once we step out, we are in fact stepping into a gas chamber. The gas chamber, why I'm saying is that because the effect of poisonous gas or all these noxious toxic gases are really harming us, each and every part of the body. So when we inhale that particular air, when we go outside, so it goes into our respiratory system, but it doesn't stop there, because it goes into the blood and each and every part of the body gets affected.
India is not the only country battling these weather extremes. Heavy smog enveloped the Chinese capital Beijing, as authorities issued their highest warning for fog and haze in major northern cities. State forecasters also said on Friday that temperatures in northern China are set to plunge as much as 20 degrees Celsius after summer-like conditions in the final days of autumn, extending a year-long trend of unusual swings in the weather. While fires and blazes are engulfing parts of Spain and Australia, Around 350 people had to be evacuated as a result of a wildfire that blazed close to the coastal town of Gandia in eastern Spain. Bushfires blazed across Australian states of New South Wales and Queensland, killing at least 2 and destroying dozens of homes. Storm Ciarán lashed northwestern Europe on Thursday, killing at least 7 people and forcing schools, airports and train services to shut down. Scientific studies indicate that extreme weather events are likely to become more frequent or more intense with human-induced climate change. Akriti Bhandari for DD India.
And now to all the news from the world of sport. In today's match in the Cricket World Cup, Afghanistan beat the Netherlands by 7 wickets to register their 4th win in this edition of the World Cup on Friday. Afghanistan chased down Netherlands' 180 target in 32 overs. Captain Hashmatullah Shahidi struck unbeaten 56, while Rahmat Shah scored 52 to lead Afghanistan home. Earlier, the Netherlands suffered a batting collapse as they went from 73 for 1 to 179 all out. Sijbrand Engelbrecht struck a gritty half-century but failed to push his team to a competitive total. Mohammad Nabi, Noor Ahmed, Mujibur Rahman were among the wickets for Afghanistan. New Zealand will face Pakistan in match 35 of the ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 on Saturday at the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru. New Zealand's 3 successive defeats have created opportunities for other teams to catch up, and Pakistan is in the best position to cash in and maybe reignite its season. A total of 115 matches have taken place between New Zealand and Pakistan in the ODI format. Pakistan has won 60 matches while New Zealand has won 51. 3 matches ended with no result. The match will start at 10:30 a.m. India time. Meanwhile, Ashes rivals Australia and England will lock horns at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad in the second match of the double-header on Saturday. Australia found themselves in some early trouble with 2 consecutive defeats to begin their tournament, but they're now on course with 4 big wins on the trot. It all began with a hard-fought win against Sri Lanka. The Pat Cummins-led team then followed it up with blistering batting performances against Pakistan and the Netherlands. England, on the other hand, are on the brink of exiting the World Cup. The defending champions have picked up only 1 win in 6 matches and are at the foot of the points table. In their previous outing, they were hammered with a 100-run defeat against India. The match is slated to begin at 2 p.m. IST. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.